I have always felt like there was something fundamentally off with society. And I remember when I was 18 years old, I just graduated from high school. I was just so incredibly lost because I just didn't know what to do with my life. There were all these different possibilities of getting a university degree, getting a job. But to be honest, it was hard for me to see the point of it all. I looked around me and I saw a world that was obsessed with hustle culture. I saw a world that was obsessed with money and with consuming things that we don't even need. And already as a 18-year-old boy, to be honest, the only thing that I really wanted was just to get away from it all. I almost felt like a kind of zombie. Like I was existing, but I was not really living. Until I remember one day I stumbled upon this movie called Into the Wild. For those that have never heard about the movie Into the Wild, it's about a man called Christopher McCandless. It's based on a real story, by the way. And so this guy, Christopher, he graduated from one of the most prestigious law schools imaginable. And of course, when he finished, his parents expected him to become a lawyer and to earn a lot of money, to buy a fancy car, buy a big house. That's how it goes. But you could see that Christopher was not interested in any of that. You could sense that he was kind of repulsed by the way that society functions. And so what he did was he just got away from it all. He just ran away and escaped. He packed his bag with some essentials like clothes, sleeping mat, sleeping bag, and he just ran away. And I'm not gonna explain the whole movie, but he basically lives like a homeless person. He's hitchhiking from place to place. And even though this may sound really uninspiring, for me, all I could see was how this man had such a childlike wonder for the world. He didn't care about what anyone around him thought of him. He just lived from day to day. And so eventually he ended up in Alaska, where he found this magic bus. He called it a magic bus. It was just an abandoned bus in the middle of the wilderness. And that's where he lived his peaceful life. He went hunting, he wrote poetry, and he just lived alone in the middle of the wilderness. Until he, unfortunately, very tragically died because he ate some kind of poisonous berry or mushroom. I can't remember, but... And so I watched this movie as a 18-year-old boy, and I just felt so relieved because finally I could see that there was someone else out there that felt the same way as I did. And I also just felt massively inspired. Of course, not because he very tragically died. I wish that never happened, but I felt very inspired nevertheless because I could see how he truly made the most out of the life that he had. And so I was so inspired that I actually bought a plane ticket to Alaska myself. And this was a pretty big thing for me back then because I come from Belgium. Alaska is pretty much the other side of the world for me. I had barely any experience of wilderness backpacking, but I felt like I just needed to do this. Something in me told me I had to take this opportunity. And so I did. I gathered around my lost money and I bought a plane ticket. And I stayed for a month in Alaska. I was hitchhiking from place to place. I went to the same wilderness nature park that Christopher McCandless was living in. And to be honest, I would need to talk for days to talk about all the different magical stories that happened to me in Alaska. I saw unimaginable beauty, glaciers, I camped on mountains, I saw wildlife. There's just something about being out there completely on your own, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nature. There's something about that's incomparable to anything else. It's just magical. It's hard to put into words how free it feels to be out there on your own. And I really honestly know that this is where I found myself. It was during this trip, while I was in the middle of nowhere, that I truly discovered who I am as a person and what I wanted to do with my life. And of course, Alaska kicked my ass as well, because it's not some kind of amusement park, it's wilderness, it's the last frontier. Alaska kicked my ass every day, but I felt alive in a way that I didn't feel before. And so when I had to go back to Belgium, as you could imagine, it was very hard for me to reintegrate into society again. Like suddenly I'm living in this big, busy, noisy city again, with this hustle culture, this constant need of buying things and consuming, and it just never stops, And so I had to change something in my life, because this way of living, I knew it was going to be unsustainable for me. I didn't want to live this kind of life. I wanted something real, I wanted to feel like I was actually living every day. And so I completely turned my life around. What I did was I just tried to get out there in nature as much as I could. I would go to the park as much as I could. I would plan these backpacking trips. I would go and climb these mountains. I would just try to be outside in nature as much as I could. And honestly, this has really improved my quality of life so incredibly much. I truly wouldn't know where I would be right now if I didn't have nature. And I think it's because when you're out there in nature, this is the thing I discovered while I was in the middle of the wilderness in Alaska. When you are out there, you can just be yourself completely. You don't need to pretend like you're someone else. Nature doesn't care about this gap on your resume. Nature doesn't care about the number in your bank account. In nature, you can just be. For me, being in nature, it's like I can finally just live in the moment without having to worry about my future, without having to worry about the past, and just be and breathe. So in a way, nature really changed my life. It has been the best therapy that I have ever gotten. So the reason I wanted to make this video is because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are struggling as well, that don't really know what to do with their life. And I just want to encourage people to get out there in nature. It doesn't have to be this extreme trip to the other side of the world. Just start small. Go to the park. Maybe organize some kind of camping trip with your friends. And I promise you, it will improve your quality of life so much, because these screens, man, they're just making us sick. But yeah, so I'm gonna make a lot of outdoor focused content in the future. If that sounds like something you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button, like button. Yeah, anyways, with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.